Hey, what's up? Have you ever thought about what would be your ideal phone if you were able to spec it out from scratch? Well, I want you to think about it during this video, and at the end, if you want, you can share it in the comments. In the meantime, I'm gonna be going over my ideal specs, and I'm gonna be taking price into account as well. I don't wanna be just slapping everything on and have a $1,500 to $2,000 phone. I wanna make it somewhat reasonable. Let's dive right in. First things first, let's talk about the star of the show, and that's gonna be the camera. Modern phones have multiple lenses, and it's to cover the gap of not being able to zoom in optically. So instead, they just add different lenses at different focal lengths and let you change between them. So my ideal phone would have a single 1-inch or larger main sensor that has optical zoom. So there is some room for play here. We could either start at 24mm equivalent, which is where the standard phones usually start, or we could go all the way up to 35mm, which is a really good focal length for just about everything. And then from there, optically zoom in 2 to 3x, whatever's possible, the further the better. And what comes to mind is just how good the phones have become at low light with the sensor sizes as they are. I can just imagine if they were to get bigger sensors, how much better that low light performances would be. Plus you're gonna get additional background blur and just other benefits to begin with. And of course, just like modern phones, once you reach the optical range, you can crop in. But now the difference would be that your 2x optical quality crop would be at 6x instead of the 2x on the main sensor nowadays. Now, a sensor of this size with optical zoom, it's gonna require a lot of space. So I'm gonna be okay with a massive camera bump, and I'll just deal with it. The main thing that they need to focus on is just not having that camera wobble when you have it flat on a desk. If they solve for that like the Pixel has done and nothing has done with their phones, it's really not gonna be that big of a deal. Just have it go across left to right and it's gonna stop the wobble. And also, I don't wanna go overboard with the megapixels. Samsung's 200 megapixel camera is, it does pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty awesome. But if you were to take a raw photo at 200 megapixels, I took some and they were coming out at over 250 megabytes per photo. That's just too large to be usable really. You can't have too many photos. I mean, every 4 photos, you have a gig of space used. So instead, I would rather just max it out at 50, maybe somewhere between 33 and 50, so you could get the 8K recording and just leave it at that. Anyway, with the larger sensor, you're gonna be able to crop in more because the pixels are gonna be cleaner anyway. So you'll be perfectly fine with 33 to 50 megapixel. And of course, when it comes to the camera controls, it's gotta be the Samsung app. They have the most professional style controls, I would say, and it's just the most user-friendly in my opinion as well. Alright, so now let's peek under the hood, and this is where some of the price savings could come in. Because instead of just slapping the latest Snapdragon, which from what I've read on articles is like 100 or 200 bucks more than the previous generations, just go with 1 or 2 generation old Snapdragon and you're gonna have the performance you need and you're gonna have some cost savings. So I would go maybe with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 or 8 Gen 3 and rock with that one for a while. I'm also a little bit flexible here. I will go with the comparable MediaTek. I've heard they've been doing great lately and I'll take my chances with them. And I would even give Exynos a shot if they can kind of keep up and save me some money. But preferably would be Snapdragon. And of course, we gotta keep everything running smoothly without having to reload your apps constantly. So I'm gonna want at least 12 gigabytes of RAM. And to kind of future-proof it, 16 would be preferable. RAM is one of those things that I think it's cheap, but they overcharge for, so I would try to push for that 16, but 12 is gonna be perfectly fine for a while. And of course, you gotta be able to store all your photos and videos, so for storage space, I'm gonna want 512 gigabytes and maybe 1 terabyte. But I know that brings up the price a lot, I think artificially again, but I would at least want that 512 to be able to store all your videos and photos you will be taking with this phone. And since this is gonna be a photo-centric or video-centric phone, we're gonna want a large battery. I would aim for 5,000 milliamp hours, which would be possible, especially with the newest tech that's coming out. Because I just don't wanna be stranded without battery if I go out to shoot some photos and videos and then have to come back and charge. Just have it last all day, and 5,000 milliamp hours is a good spot to be able to last you all day. Now let's get into the in-hand feel. And I think it's gonna be a little bit surprising for some of you that I'm gonna go with a plastic frame. And there are a few reasons for that. It's gonna be lighter for one compared to metal. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit weaker, but I think I'll give up a little bit of that strength for that lightness. And it's also gonna be a bit cheaper. So with my goal of wanting to keep it maybe around 800 or 900 bucks, having that plastic frame will help to bring down the cost a bit. And then lastly, it's gonna be more comfortable when you pick it up because it's always at a more comfortable temperature than a metal frame would be. Because metal frames tend to change to the ambient temperature quite a bit faster than plastic. So plastic is just more comfortable overall. So going this way is also gonna reduce a little bit of that premium feel, but I'm willing to give that up for the reduced cost and more comfort and lighter frame. For the overall shape of the phone, I would want to have the rounded corners so it doesn't dig into your hands and the flat sides, so it's more modern and you have more grip than on a rounded frame. My ideal phone would also have the Qi 2 magnet on it so that when I'm charging wirelessly, it's always lined up perfectly. Plus, I'll be able to use all these MagSafe accessories that are gonna enhance the usability of the phone by a lot. And when it comes to the back glass, I would want it to be plastic with the vegan leather. I think that's the best compromise. It's not gonna show that much wear and tear. It seems to be doing all right with my long-term phones like the OnePlus Open. There's still nothing permanent on it, no scratches or anything, and it's holding up really well. Plus it's gonna be cheaper than glass, it's gonna be more comfortable and provide more grip, which is gonna be important when you're trying to take a picture in an awkward position with one hand. So lots of benefits to that vegan leather back. And then the last thing I wanna talk about in terms of the build is that I want the weight to actually be moved downward. I noticed that a lot of the phones, especially the premium ones, they try to keep the weight at 50-50, which is not bad, it makes the phone very balanced. But why would I want to be 50-50 when I'm always holding the phone in the bottom? If I move the weight to the bottom a little bit, the phone's gonna feel a little bit lighter because there's no weight on the top to kind of nudge it one way or another. So by doing this, it'll be more comfortable and it'll feel more secure in your hands because you have all the weight in your palm rather than on top of it. And finally, let's talk about the window to this technological marvel, the screen. I was a huge fan of the S24 Ultra screen, and I'm a huge fan of the S25 Ultras as well, but the S24 Ultra had the hardest screen that I had seen on a phone and that I had owned. It had a scratch resistance of 7 on the most hardness scale, which means that would be scratch resistant to even more objects in your pocket. So I would want the original Gorilla Glass armor on my phone. Plus it has the anti-reflective coating, which is gonna be super awesome for taking videos and pictures outdoors where the sun can really put a lot of glare and make it hard to see what you're taking a picture of. So 2 benefits that are major in my opinion for the Gorilla Glass armor. When it comes to the shape of the screen, I want it to be flat. The rounded edges have a nice feel to it, but I'd rather have the flat edges for a little bit of extra strength, easier application of screen protectors, and less interference with cases. And of course you're gonna need selfie cameras because video calls are a thing and sometimes you wanna take photos of yourself anyway in the selfie mode. I would wanna go with the under display camera, that way I have as much of an uninterrupted screen as possible. And I know it's possible to come out with a good one because the Z70 Ultra from Nubia has one that I can't even tell is there, and the quality of the camera is actually fairly decent. It's the best under display camera I've used so far. And in terms of the size of the screen, I would want to go as small as possible, but I'm going to be realistic here. With a camera this large taking up so much internal space and a large capacity 5000 mAh battery, it's not going to be a small phone. I'm not going to expect a 6-inch display or anything like that. I would expect that the minimum size you could get it to will be 6.4 inches, which is alright, it's like a medium sized phone. But I definitely wouldn't want to reach that 6.7 or 6.8 inch screen that a lot of phones are right now. So there you have it. That's my ideal phone, my dream phone, and I think it will be a nice balance of amazing camera with decent performance and at a acceptable price. Now that you heard my specs and builds, what would you prioritize on your phone? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for future content. Alright then, I'll see you in the next one.